Hey guys, this is Corey, and you're watching Breakdowns and Body Bags. So today we're going to be talking about Army of the Dead, the latest and greatest from Zach Snyder, who has brought you such films as My Cat's Fucking Up My Chair. Army of the Dead is about a zombie outbreak that happens in Las Vegas. A lot of people die from it, and thus Vegas is then quarantined off from the rest of the world. Zombies are behind the wall, everyone else is outside. Meanwhile, a man who owns one of the casinos in Las Vegas would like to get his money out of his vault, millions of dollars, so he hires a team of mercenaries to essentially infiltrate zombie Vegas and get his money. That's pretty much it. It's a heist movie within a zombie movie. It sounds like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it's not. So I actually heard some decent praise for this movie, which actually got me really excited because it's Zach Snyder. You know, Zach Snyder gets a bad rap because of his DCU movies, which I agree, they're not very good. Also, the last time he wrote his own movie was a movie called Sucker Punch, which is also not very good. But he also gave us, 300 and Watchmen, which are really, really great, especially Watchmen. So I'm always sort of rooting for Zack Snyder. Plus, I hear he's just a really nice guy in general, like in Hollywood. So yeah, I'm always really hoping that his next movie is going to be a good one. Also to mention, the first big movie he did was his remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is actually really good. So, again, he does make good movies, he is capable of it, and he's made a good zombie movie before. With all of that being said, once I heard the general praise for Army of the Dead, I got really excited. And I thought, yeah, this is going to be, finally a Zack Snyder movie that's good. Good on you, Zach. So, one day I sat down and watched it, and the first thing I noticed was its 2.5 hour runtime, which seemed odd for this kind of movie. It's a fun Ocean's 11 meets Dawn of the Dead type movie, and I just thought 2.5 hours, that's kind of odd. But I'm not, turned off by longer movies. In fact, I usually prefer longer movies because you have more time to dig into the world and the plot and the characters and all that stuff. The biggest problem with Army of the Dead for me is the writing. And unfortunately, it was written by Zach Snyder. So before I get into what I thought about this movie and the negatives, I will talk about some of the positives. One of which is the cast. The cast is really good. It's pretty stacked. Unfortunately, no one really stands out among the cast performance-wise. There's not a single performance that wowed me, except for Dave Bautista, of all people. He's the main character. He's the main mercenary hired to run this heist, and he's actually really good. He had to emote and cry in a couple scenes, and he really sells it very well. He was the most impressive performance in the movie. I was really surprised. Another positive for me is just that it appears that this movie was filmed either on location or on sets or a combination of the two. Zack Snyder loves his green screen. Go back and watch 300. I think the whole thing is green screen. Go back and watch the last movie that he wrote himself, Sucker Punch. It's a lot of green screen. And the example that I always talk about is Sucker Punch. It's the very end of Sucker Punch. The main character is getting on a bus, and she's driving away on this bus into the sunset. Pretty simple. The last shot of the movie is the bus driving down a road into the sunset. Pretty simple. But the entire thing is CG. The sun, the background, the road, the bus, it's all CG, and it looks terrible. And I remember thinking to myself, you couldn't have just gotten a bus, closed off one stretch of road, and just driven this bus down this real road? You couldn't have just done that and filmed it? Why did this all have to be CG? It looks so ugly and fake, and I don't understand why you chose to do it. That's the example that I always use. But with Army of the Dead, a lot of it looks either on location or really well done sets. So, there is still CG, obviously, but it's not distracting. The movie looks really good. Zack Snyder did his own cinematography on this movie, which is kind of strange. It's the first time he's ever done it. And some of his choices are very odd. A lot of people have talked about this already, but his focus is very strange. He does this thing where there's a ton of things in the foreground that are in focus, and literally everything else around it is blurred. And he does it pretty much the entire movie. It's constant. It didn't really bother me, but it was just something I noticed, and I just thought was kind of an odd choice, but whatever, it's fine. But now we're gonna get into the negatives, and the biggest one for me is the writing. I'm sorry, Zach Snyder, who will never ever watch this. My apologies. The writing is bad. This movie feels like it was written by a 13-year-old boy. A lot of the evil characters are so over the top vile that it's hard to believe anything that's happening. It's just, for me, it really took me out of the movie. You know, I understand this is a movie about a heist, a money heist, and zombies. I'm not looking for, you know, Oscar caliber writing here, but I am looking for characters to be a little more realistic than that. One character in particular that goes around with a one of those like thermometer guns. You know, you point it to someone's forehead and pull the trigger and it tells you their temperature. And he takes the temperature of this young, attractive girl and then tells her that maybe he should use his rectal thermometer this time. And he says it with this like, just this sleazy, gross, like, oh, maybe next time I'll use my rectal thermometer. It's just so bad. So bad. And he's not the only character like that. There are multiple characters that are just mustache-twirling evil to the point that it was unbelievable. Another character that really stands out is the safecracker. I like the actor a lot. I thought he did a good job. But the safecracker is a complete buffoon throughout the entire movie. Everything he says is dumb. They do this really old joke that needs to be retired where when shit goes down, he has a very high-pitched girly scream, and when he screams in this girly high-pitched noise, they look at him like, that's your scream, really? And just, and it bothered me because the safecracker was the most important character, right? Like, yeah, the mercenaries can get you into Vegas, they can kill zombies, they can get you to the vault, but if they can't get you in the vault, what's the fucking point? So the safecracker is the most important part. And I was really hoping that he would be a little more intelligent and a little more capable, and he's just not. He's a complete idiot. He's unbearable for a good portion of the movie. The writing is just bad. The way the characters talk is bad. And really, I should say, when I say the writing is bad, it's the writing of the characters. Not necessarily the movie as a whole, but some of the things the characters say, some of the things the characters do are just so bad. It just took me out of it completely, and I didn't care. So by the end of the movie, I really didn't care, especially considering, you know, by the end of the movie, I've been sitting through these insufferable characters for 2.5 hours, so I just didn't give a shit. The heist stuff is whatever. I mean, this is not an Ocean's movie. You know, it's nothing crazy or spectacular. They get into Vegas, they open the vault, there's money there. One thing I will mention that I honestly did not notice when I watched the movie, but now, thinking back on it, it's so painfully obvious, I don't know how I missed it. This movie is being compared a lot to Aliens, James Cameron's action sci-fi masterpiece, Aliens. There are so many similarities to Aliens that I honestly can't believe I missed all of them. So much of the plot and the story beats are lifted right from Aliens. It's kind of amazing, but in a bad way. It's definitely tough for a rewatch. Like, it's hard to sit down and rewatch because, again, the writing is bad. It's 2.5 hours long, but it's also like a carbon copy of Aliens in a lot of ways. And for me, if I'm watching a 2.5 hour mediocre movie that's like Aliens, I'd rather just turn that off and go watch Aliens, because Aliens is a fucking masterpiece. The zombie stuff is okay. It's kind of interesting. He does try to do some new things with the zombies. So there are your classic brain-dead zombies. I think they call them shamblers in this movie. You know, slow-walking zombies. They just want to eat you. Nothing too crazy. But there are certain zombies that are like the leaders of these zombies, and they're intelligent. They can think. They can strategize. They can organize. And there seems to be like a hierarchy. Like, at one point, I think there's a female zombie that's sort of like their queen, and then she has like a husband male zombie that's like their king. I thought that was pretty cool, but the movie focuses so heavily on the mercenaries and the heist, it doesn't really go into the zombies. Like, how are these zombies intelligent? Why are they intelligent and the other ones aren't? what caused this, what's going on. My other big negative with this movie sort of stems off of the bad writing, but it's the humor in this movie. There are so many moments throughout the runtime of Army of the Dead where Zack Snyder has his characters make a joke or say something funny or do something funny to try to make the audience laugh. And I swear to God, not a single one of them lands. I did not laugh one time throughout this movie. In fact, most of the humor made me kind of cringe up because it's not good. You have these characters that are so vile and disgusting that it's unbelievable, and at the same time you have these other characters cracking jokes that just make you cringe in your pants, and God, it's not good. So I don't know if I'd recommend this movie, to be honest. If you had no stake in Zack Snyder as a director, or if you weren't into zombie movies, if you were just some person that said, you know what, Corey, do you recommend Army of the Dead in any way? No, I would say no. It's 2.5 hours of your time. It's not worth any of it. There's not a whole lot to like. No, I would not recommend it. But if you're a fan of Zack Snyder or zombie movies in general, sure, maybe. I mean, if you like Zack Snyder's work, or if you like zombie movies, then sure, I'd recommend it. You might like it. I mean, again, there are people out there that do think this movie is really good and a lot of fun. So you might be one of them, sure. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me. I don't want to talk about Army of the Dead anymore. So I'm going to go and do something better with my time. Thanks as always for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. And I'll see you next week.